Hi everyone, in this fourth lecture we'll cover Tableau calculations and calculation fields. In the previous three lectures we covered how to install Tableau, what do you see as the graphical user interface, how to use data filters to gather insights, and of course the six type of filters. And then in the previous video we looked into the various charts possible in visualization and we had a very detailed demo as to how to create most of those charts. I hope you have liked it till up until now. And now we'll dive into a bit more analytical aspect where we'll calculate certain fields inside Tableau, which will help you compare values in the visualization itself. And you'll see a particular concept called level of detail, LOD, which you might know or you might have searched for before. And this all will be covered in this lecture. With that, let's get started. So, what are calculation fields? Why do we need calculation fields? And the demo of calculation fields will be the agenda for this lecture. Starting with what are calculation fields? Calculation fields are just the fields that you write as a formula in Tableau. I am assuming in Excel you must have written a basic sum formula or an average formula ever in your life, right? In Tableau, it's the same way. It's just that the formula bar is a bit different. You have to click somewhere else and you have to go somewhere else. That's it. It's called a calculation field because you as a user calculate it. That's the most layman way to say about it. Now, calculation fields essentially provide an option to generate new data from existing data points. Let's say your data set has 10 variables or 10 columns. If you don't know what variables are, columns and variables are used together. So let's say you have 10 variables, out of those 5 are rating scales, and you want to create an 11th variable, which is a combination of 3 or 4 of the variables before. So it is a derived variable. In Tableau, it's called a calculation field. You pull up, you create a calculation field, you write the formula, and boom, it's created, right? So there's an example given here. If you have a height and weight of a sample, you can create a field with which you can calculate a BMI. BMI has two inputs, height and weight. So that way you can use Tableau to create a calculated field. Now, types of calculation fields. There are three types as you can see on your screen. One is basic calculations. Like I said, sum, average, normal row level of detail. You want to add or separate first and last name of someone. So these are very basic operations, not very complicated. So we term it as basic calculations. Again, it's very easy. So that's why this has been termed separately. Now, second we come to is LOD calculations. LOD, for many people who have not come across this term before, is called level of detail. Whenever you dive into a formula or you go in an analysis mode, you always ask at which level of detail do you want to analyze. Example, we live in India, right? It's part of a continent called Asia. Asia is part of the world, right? Indian average might be higher than the Asian average or lower than the Asian average. Asian average might be higher than the world average or lower than the world average. The level of detail is very different. You keep on moving up from India to the continent to the world, or you keep on moving down. What's the world average? What's the Asian average? And what's the Indian average? And then you can go even a level further. What's, let's say, Delhi's average? What's, let's say, Bangalore's average? What's, let's say, Kolkata's average, right? So you can keep on diving in the cities, then in the rural towns. This is called level of detail. We go some levels up, we go some levels down. In those, we have three functions in Tableau with which we use it. One is include. Include is generally used when we are going one level down in the details. Let's say I am looking at an average for Asia and I'm interested in a number for India. But I don't want to include the column which shows me India in my visualization. I'll add an include formula. I'll add an include calculation field instead, which will give me an Indian average just beside the Asian average for me to compare. This is only possible if I use the include function. So that's why it's written. Ensure that a dimension that isn't necessarily present in the view is considered in the calculation. So we include it, but it's hidden from the visualization. Hence the formula include. Now, second one is fixed. Let's say you want one number in the visualization to stay fixed so that all the numbers in that visualization can be compared with that one particular number. In that scenario, you'll use the LOD function called fixed. That's it. That's it to it. This is the easiest LOD function to use. Fixed, one column, and you can aggregate it to a particular number. That particular number will help you compare it to the rest of the numbers in the visualization. Third and the last one is exclude. Just like in include, we add a bottom layer with which we can compare the numbers. In exclude, we exclude one of the layers. So if I'm in Asia and I'm looking at an Asian average and I want to compare it with an Indian average, right? But at the same time, I want the world average to be on the right hand side, but I don't want the world's average to be shown in the visualization. I'll add that using an exclude function. So it removes some of the details from a visualization. I hope you are following the train of thought. Includes, adds a layer, exclude, removes a layer, fixed, stays where it is. So whatever is the scenario that you are analyzing, whatever is the scenario you want to visualize on, these three functions will help you a lot in building complicated visualizations, and we'll see in the demo how we can use this in some of the scenarios. So now we come to the third calculation field called table calculations. This is nothing, whatever you create on your detail screen or your detail window, you can just transform the values. Example, if you have counts which sum up to a certain number, you can divide it by the whole certain number, that is the grand total of those counts, and get the percentage values in that table itself. It's called a quick table calculation. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but we'll cover it in the demo, so you don't need to worry about it. As per the definition, it says table calculations allow you to transform values at the level of detail of the visualization only. So whatever visualization you're creating, you can transform it then and there. So you don't need to create a field. You can just transform the values in the table that you have created for the visualization itself. Right? Okay, now we move ahead. This is a screenshot that I took it from one of the sessions. So you can see that we'll be creating a customer experience rating by combining the 6 rating variables that we have in the data, and we'll show it to you in the demo. But in case you were interested, this is what a creation field box looks like. So if you click on like create a calculated field on Tableau, this window will pop up and you will have to create a calculated field in that window. Moving ahead, the question that we want to know, why do we need calculation fields? Many at times, we want to create a derived variable which solves our analysis much easier than the variable present in the data. For that purposes, we need to create a new variable that solves that need. Example, we might need to bins certain columns of a rating variable. Let's say people who are answering 6 and 7 on a rating scale of 1 to 7 are considered top box responses. 3, 4, 5 are considered middle box responses, and 1 and 2 are considered bottom box responses. Maybe you create a new variable called rating categorical or rating boxed, right? Where you reduce the number of categories from 1 to 7 and you bring down the number of categories to 3, which is bottom box, middle box, and top box. This way, the analysis can show less variance and can give you the insight in a much better way. You can try that out for any rating scale. If the rating scale has 7 categories, you can reduce it to 2 and 3, and you can find variation which will help you bring insights much faster than if you would have been looking on a scale of 1 to 7. So that is one of the reasons that we use a calculated field. But in theory, what are the reasons? One, data segmentation. You can branch the data out as per your field. If the data has so many categories, maybe you start storing it in a different way so that you can apply that calculated field as a filter later on. If you remember, in the data filter videos, we talked about one of the filters where we created a set. That set is nothing but the calculated field. You can create a set which filters top 5 values in the visualization. That can come into the data segmentation part, because you only want to look at top 5, top 10, top 15. You are segmenting it in a particular way. Then data manipulation. Data manipulation is a very abstract term. It can mean a lot of things. For now, let's just consider whatever you aggregate, sum, average, minimum, maximum, it comes under data manipulation. You are moving the data, you are looking the data from left side, right side, from all the different angles to get the answer you need or to get the insight that fits in your hypothesis. So data manipulation is important, but specifically data aggregation is one that you will use the most in Tableau, especially when you're creating visualizations. Then data filtering. I don't need to stress the importance of data filtering again and again. If you still are a bit doubtful about it, I highly recommend you go back to the second lecture and watch it again. Data filtering is very important to get any kind of insight that you want, and also to be confident about it when you're presenting that insight to any of your strategic decision takers. So be very careful about what variables you create, what calculated fields you use, because at the end of the day, data filtering will be required. Then ratios in data. There are many ratios that help us analyze things a bit better. Best example, so if you invest in the markets or if you know about the price of stocks, you know it is a derivative of what they earn, right? But we don't actually just look at the price of a commodity. We sometimes look, okay, it earns X and it trades at Y. So the ratio of the price to earning is very important in finance, right? Similarly, there are some ratios in every business. The KPIs, key performance indicators, you can create some kind of a ratio, which will be important for your analysis and for your tracking purposes. This helps you in that you can create a calculated field which adheres to a particular ratio, and that particular ratio you can keep as a target, or you can track it day to day, or you can actually anchor that this is our baseline or a benchmark that we want to achieve. So calculation fields help in all of these points. Now we will dive into the demo. The question is still the same. You are a data analyst at United Airlines. You are asked to analyze the user experience. So the data set of rating scales is still the same, but now we want to look into specific significant analytical findings, and we'll use calculation fields for the same, which will include basic calculation fields, LOD calculation fields, and table calculations in that. I'll move to the demo. Oh, before moving to the demo, there are three objectives that we want to cover. Three objectives are: we want to analyze passenger reviews for understanding user experience. We want to analyze customer experience with respect to their averages, minimum, and maximum ratings. So, to give you in a very layman language, there is a certain rating that a customer gives, but what was the best rating or the maximum rating any customer gave, or what was the minimum rating what any customer gave, so that we know the variation between it, that you can do in one table itself, right? And we'll use that, and we'll use calculation fields to create that. Third one is analyze country specific customer experience scores. What about one country's score, right? How to use that. We'll talk about in the demo how we can use the country variable, how we can get certain answers, and how we can even use LOD variables to achieve the same. So let's dive into the demo. If you see, I am on Tableau and the data source has been loaded, just like we discussed in the second video. And now we'll start creating the customer satisfaction scores for aircrafts that we can get right now. I'll drag to aircrafts on the rows and I'll get their rating. So the rating I'll put to an average, I'll sort it, and I'll add the labels. Now we need to get a max, min, and a number together. Won't a bar chart get a bit cluttered, right? So I think let's just keep it in a tabular format rather than in a bar format, because we need three columns, and all the three columns should have the average rating, the maximum rating, and the minimum rating. So to do that, I'll remove the average rating from the columns. I'll move ahead and I'll add a calculation field. First would be minimum of average rating, and the formula would be min rating. Okay, I'll add another formula, another calculation field, apologies, max of average rating, and the formula would be max rating. I'll close the bracket. And if you see, these two are created. Now I need to add them in the table. For that, I'll first drop measure names on the columns, and then I'll draw measure values on the text metric. If you see, a lot of measures have been added. I only need 3 of them, right? So we'll remove them one by one. If you see, we can remove it by clicking on the right side. Option is to remove. So we don't need seat comfort, we'll remove. We need the ratings, we'll keep it. We need the minimum and maximum ratings, we'll keep it. We'll remove the ground ratings, food beverages ratings, entertainment. Oh, by the way, this is not the only way to remove a pill from your analysis. You can just drag and drop it out. That is another way to remove something. Okay, so now we have 3. I want the rating to be first, max to be second, and minimum to be third. I want the rating to be an average. I'll change it to an average. I want maximum of the ratings here and minimum of the ratings here. Okay. Cool. Now I'll expand the table so that you can see it at your end. Just a second. Got it. Now, if you notice in the PowerPoint presentation that we talked about, there wasn't a discussion of having a rating, right? We wanted to create a customer experience score where we combined all the ratings and we divided it by a certain number. But right now, we didn't do that. We try to skip ahead of it, right? So to do that, you go and create a calculated field and call it customer experience score. Now we have cabin staff service plus entertainment plus food beverages plus ground service plus seat comfort plus value for money, and I enclose all of that in a bracket. Go towards the left side, enclose it into a bracket, go towards the right hand side, and there are 6 variables I've typed. I divide it by 6. I take a basic average of customer experience score. Now this customer experience score is the one I'm interested about, and I want to know the max of this score and the minimum of this score, right? First we created max of rating and minimum of rating. Now I have created a new variable which combines the 6 variables, and now this new variable created, I want to know the max of this new variable and the min of this new variable. So we'll change the formulas that we created earlier. We'll go to the formula, max of average rating. We'll click on edit. I want to change it max of customer experience score. Okay. And we'll do the same. We'll click on edit, max of minimum of customer experience score. And if you see, our values have changed in the table already, but our first column is still the average rating, which was the old one. So what to do? Click on customer experience, replace it in place of average rating. Make sure to change it from a sum to an average. And here you can then sort on your averages and then expand the table, and you can see your analysis in front of you. Just remember, whatever your average customer experience score is, it will be less than or equal to your maximum score and greater than or equal to your minimum score. If your average customer experience score for any aircraft is coming higher than your max value, your analysis is incorrect and you should look into the data and all the steps that you have taken up until so far. So this covers one of the topics of calculation field, which was basic calculations. And I'll name the tab as basic calculations. Now we'll move on to tab number 2, in which we'll try to cover fixed LOD. If you remember LOD, level of detail. There were 3 types: include, fixed, and exclude. We'll start with the most easy part first, which is the fixed. In this, We only need to fix one column that we need to get a value for. Now, how is it useful? I'll show you. So we'll add country as a row, and we'll add, let's say, an aircraft in that same row, right? And if you see, we have countries and aircraft. And now we want to know, let's say, average ratings for that. So we'll convert this sum to an average. I'll sort the data, add labels, and boom, we have the analysis ready for each country and each aircraft. But where is LOD coming into the picture? Now, if you see, we have two columns here, one country and one aircraft. The averages of the ratings depend on these two columns right now. I want to compare these ratings, which depends on two columns, with the ratings that depends on only one column. And that one column for me is country. So I want the analysis for country on the right hand side. So what I'll do here is, I'll go to create a calculated field. I call it fixed LOD, and I'll do a fixed, and the column which I want to fix is country, and I want an average of rating, and I'll close the curly brackets. It'll do an OK. Now this fixed LOD, I'll add it in front of the columns. And if you see, there are a lot of nulls that we have right now. So I'll filter the aircraft to not contain nulls. So once I do that, you can see on your screen, now I have two columns. One, which is dependent on both the columns, country and aircraft, and the averages are for both. So to read, there's a 10-pointer average for Argentina and Boeing 777-200. Whereas on an Argentina level, the average is score of 6. Average score is 6. So when I compare this, you can see the second column of the bar chart which we have, it's same for each country. It doesn't change on an aircraft basis. Because we made sure to use the fixed command, we fixed this answer, we fixed the average to one country. So wherever you apply this column, per country, this value will remain the same. This is how fixed LOD works. I hope you're getting it. If not, I'll say rewind and watch it again, because the steps I did are very simple, but you need to understand how I did it, right? So this is fixed LOD. Now let's move ahead on another sheet and we'll try to do an exclude LOD. Exclude means we'll exclude one of the columns. So with that, I think let's start with the seat type and traveler type. So we have seat type and traveler type. In this, I'll add an average rating, right? And I'll give it a label. And I'll change the sum to an average. So again, we have seat type, traveler type, ratings are based on these two. Now, whatever we achieved with fixed LOD, we can achieve the same result with exclude LOD. And the best part about it is fixed is a static. You are fixing one column. In exclude, you can just say, I want to exclude the traveler. So whatever is left after excluding traveler, that average will be calculated. So it's a dynamic way of interacting with your data. So let's talk about it. Let's create it. I'll create the calculation field. I'll call it exclude LOD. I'll open the curly brackets. I'll type exclude, right? And then we'll have traveler type, average, rating, and I'll close the curly brackets. Now my exclude LOD is set up. And if you see, I'll quickly drag and drop it. And it works a similar way. But if I run this analysis, let's say with a country and traveler, it will still work for the country because it's dynamic. It's only removing the traveler type, right? So try that out on your end. In fact, I can show that to you in the next sheet and call it exclude LOD2. Exclude LOD2. Oops, exclude LOD2. And here what we'll do is, so in the earlier one we did seed type, traveler type. Now we'll do, let's say, a country and a traveler type, right? So, and we'll add the rating, convert it to an average, and sort it down. Show the labels, and now I'll add the exclude LOD on the right. Of course, there will be nulls, so we'll filter the nulls out of the chart. And now you see our average for Argentina was 6, right? So this helps when we are creating certain visualizations. You can use fixed LOD and exclude LOD or both as per your convenience. There is no one way to go about this. Exclude is just a dynamic way of doing things, and fixed is a static way of doing things. So whatever suits you best, but I wanted to show you both of the ways that you can do it. So we talked about exclude, we talked about fixed. What does include do? Good question. I'll type include LOD in the new sheet, and we'll try to create the same seat type, traveler type visualization, and add the rating, change it to an average, sort it in a descending order, and add the labels. So this is the average rating at seat type and traveler type. Just like exclude removes the column, include adds a column, right? Exclude removes, include adds, fixed stays where it is. So include is also a dynamic function, but it adds a layer and computes the answer in the backend so that we can see it on our front end. So let's say this is the average rating. I want the exclude LOD here as well. I'll add the include later. I'll remove the average rating, and I can see that at a seat type business class level, I have 3.9341 answer. And at both the levels, I want to include another layer of trip verified. So to do that, we'll create an include LOD calculation field called include LOD. I'll open the curly brackets, include, okay, I'm typing it wrong. It is trip verified, not travel verified. Trip verified, and it's average of rating. I'll close the curly brackets and I'll term it as an OK. Now I have include LOD as well, but it shows me an error. Calculation contains errors. Oh, I didn't add the closed brackets first. So I'll do it an OK now. Now I can add an include LED on the front. And if you see, these averages are different. So this includes the column called trip verified. How to check this is working correctly? Let's add the column trip verified in front of traveler type. And we can see the first column is an exclude one. It will only work for business class. Second column has all the three columns together. So we'll add a rating on an average towards the left hand side so that we get the average answers and compare it with whatever we are getting. And bingo. First column, which is calculating at all the three levels, is the same as the third column with which we calculated and included the third column called trip verified. So when we say include, it includes the column, and by this exercise I can clearly see column number 1 and column number 3 are exactly the same. Column number 2 on the other hand follows an exclude approach, which excludes the column called traveler and only includes trip verified and seat type. So this is how you can use a dynamic way of calculating in the visualization, and this is one of the ways to master the complex visualizations part, where you can compare different numbers in one row or one column and together. Believe me when I say this, LOD, level of detail, include, exclude, and fixed are very complicated functions to work with. But once you master it, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment and you will be able to answer with confidence that you can analyze things in a particular way and give confident insights when asked about them. I hope you like the session. We'll connect in the next one. But before we go, I would like to summarize whatever we have done up until now. In this session, we finished calculation fields. We talked about the table calculation fields. We talked about the LOD calculation fields. And we talked about the basic calculation fields which we used to create the min and the max. Now, in the next session, we'll talk about the parameters and how we use those parameters in various scenarios. I hope you like the session. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you.